Hey everyone, I hope everyone is doing swell this week. Today's video is going to be a little bit of a story time about my first time getting baked, so I hope everyone remembers to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get on to the video. So a little backstory, as a kid I was very sheltered, and every time someone talked about weed, I thought it was some super hardcore drug, or that even if I looked at it outside of the DARE program I was just going to end up dead in a ditch somewhere. Wasn't there a statistic about how the DARE program was actually more of a failure than a success to keeping kids from getting into drugs? Anyway, I remember a story I was told from middle school about a police officer coming in and passing around a joint so people could see it, but some kid kept it and the class was on lockdown until they found the joint. But I'm pretty sure someone was just telling us that story to be cool, and I'm also pretty sure that was a South Park gag too. Anyway, in high school, I knew a little more about drugs, but they had mandatory drug testing, which I was pulled multiple times a quarter, even though I was supposed to be only once a quarter, I guess because I was the weird kid. So, when I got into college, I'd never even seen weed in person at that point. I heard more about weed at that point. I knew it wasn't as damaging as I was told when I was a kid, but it was still illegal in my state, and at that point, I couldn't just go around walking around asking for it, or even go to a dispensary. Well, one day at the start of the new quarter, I was longboarding on my way to class, and I saw a guy who also had a longboard. He actually had the one I really wanted, but the skate shop that I went to didn't have it. It was a drop deck longboard with a Rasta line on it. I still really want that longboard, even though I don't longboard anymore. So we ended up talking, and he starts talking about Bitcoin. Now at the time, Bitcoin was like 200 bucks a coin, and I really wish I'd bought some, or one or two at least, because I'd be doing so much better for myself. But you live and you learn. However, he explained that you use Bitcoin on the dark web to buy drugs and stuff like that off the Silk Road, and they would ship it to your house, obscured to random objects like alarm clocks, DVD cases, and stuff like that, and then he would go to sell kids on campus. He was pretty shocked when I told him I'd honestly never even seen marijuana in person before, nor have I been high in my life. So that day he planned to get me stoned for my very first time. I was of course very nervous, because at that time in my life, when you got high, I thought you lost all control of yourself and you think that you could fly and will jump off a building to your death, or you think you're invincible and walk out the traffic. Safe to say, I was shitting bricks. So after class, we left campus and we tried to find a private spot to smoke. We ended up finding this abandoned homeless sleeping spot, which was kind of mad sketchy for me because I was afraid that we would be sitting there stoned and deflated, like that girl from that one drug PSA, and some homeless person would come up and get mad at us that we were in their spot. I was so nervous and new to smoking that using a bowl ended up being a two-person job, where I would suck and then he'd hold the hole for me. Of course, I had never been high before, so I didn't even know what being high felt like. I was expecting to see colors, little gnomes coming out of mushroom homes, and unicorns prancing around, but it was just like, wow, my body feels really funny, and it's almost like someone power washed all the thoughts out of my brain. It was way less scared than I thought it was going to be. I remember feeling like a little bit of a robot or a newly made or would it be born AI, and I was just trying to relearn the world again. We hung out for a bit, and I remember he took me to a place called Harold's Chicken, and I absolutely slayed those chicken wings, and the munchies were real. Walking around downtown the campus stoned was kind of fun, honestly. But I really didn't know much about downtown, so navigating a revolving door, heavily stoned, was like a huge obstacle for me. When we parted ways, I was still pretty stoned, and I asked him, "Hey, how long is this supposed to last?" And he said, "Oh, you'll be coming down in about 4 hours." I completely forgot when we had started smoking, but I figured the train ride home I should be okay enough to drive. I remember getting into the station, and luckily I had a monthly pass, so I didn't have to navigate buying a ticket while stoned, but I did end up buying some caramel and cheese popcorn from the vendor in the train station, and I hopped on my train. Now, this is something I would never do normally, but since it was a commuter train, the train was absolutely packed with people, so I ended up just plopping my butt right down next to some poor office workers with my longboard, a handful of popcorn, and my bag, and I went to town on that popcorn right next to those people. I really feel bad, and I hope I didn't get any crumbs on them or in their bags or any of their stuff, but I remember listening to music, and it was such a brilliant experience. It was like I was hearing the music for the first time again. At the time, I was listening to Tyler, the Creator, and I believe I was listening to his Bastard album, and I was just absolutely enchanted by it. I ended up falling asleep on the train and somehow managed to wake up a little bit before my stop, and everyone that was on my seat that I was sitting in evacuated at that point. I remember feeling kind of normal, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've came down by now. So I got off the train and got to my car, and I was using a really strong air freshener at the time that smelled like cherries, so I sat down in my car and I got a head rush from it, and I was like, oh yeah, looks like I'm still sort of stoned. So I sat in my car for a bit, trying to figure out how I was going to get home, and I thought about calling my parents to pick me up, but that would mean I'd have to tell them about getting stoned, and that really wasn't an option for me. So I sat in my car a little while longer, and I ended up driving home, which was really kind of scary because I had to navigate commuter traffic while still being sort of stoned, but I got home without incident. So yeah, that was the story of my first time getting stoned. I figured everyone would probably enjoy this sort of funny and embarrassing story, and I hope to tell more stories about some of my misadventures in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It'll put a smile on my face, and see you guys next week.